Moore,
Here.
O'Kane,
Here.
Shaner. Here. Scott.
Here.
Waters.
Stand for a moment of silent prayer, followed by the
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Angela Drent, Active Transportation Committee. Come on up and tell us a little bit about why you want to continue.
Angela Drent. I just want to continue on the Active Transportation Committee. I have some background knowledge in the subject area. Want to continue to make our community more accessible, inclusive, and walkable, bicycle friendly, so that people are using it either for active transportation or for recreation purposes can do so with ease.
I've also noticed that you have a lot of good input at our joint meetings with City Council and the committee. So thanks for your good work.
Yep, no problem. Thank you.
Questions?
No questions. I hope we get more active transportation in this city. And that'd be great.
I'm working on a couple. That would be great. We do have a few openings, so if anybody is interested, we'd love to have them join us.
Wonderful.
I'm late to the party, but I would just add that you've been a tremendous advocate, and so I really appreciate your input on that. I'd share Dan's sentiments. I think whether it's joint meetings or just overall what we hear back and the feedback we receive, I really appreciate people that are willing to speak up, especially with things they're passionate about and the committees they're on, and I know you're willing to do that, so thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yep, thank you.
Monica Gooddong, Inclusive Sioux City. Here. Doesn't look like it. We'll go to the consent agenda, which is items 3 through 11E. They consider these items passed unanimously unless a separate roll call vote is requested by a council member. Anybody wishing to speak on an agenda item may come to the podium at the time the item is being discussed. Anybody wishing to speak on an item not on the agenda may do so at the end of the meeting under citizen concerns. Remember to always state your name for the record. I'll move the consent agenda.
Second.
Reading of the December 23rd City Council minutes. 4 is a resolution authorizing the police department to accept the JAG program funds. 5 is a resolution awarding a purchase order to SkyDO for the drone to be used by the police department. 6 are appointments to boards, committees, and commissions. A is a motion reappointing Sean Olardami to the Active Transportation Advisory Committee. D is a motion reappointing Robert Dandran to the Building and Housing Code Board. C is a motion reappointing Grace Parent to the Environmental Advisory Board. D is a motion reappointing Donna Sanchez to the Environmental Advisory Board. E is a motion reappointing Angel Wallace to the Inclusive Sioux City Advisory Committee. F is a motion appointing Rachel Barnum to the Museum Board of Trustees. G is a motion appointing Steve Hewson to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. H is a motion reappointing James Stevenson to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. 7 are actions relating to agreements and contract. A is a resolution accepting the work of Sioux City Engineering for the Rebecca Street reconstruction project. B is a resolution approving a work order number 2023-13 for RS and H Iowa for the runway 1331 and 185th April reconstruction project at the airport. C is a resolution approving a First Amendment to the lease agreement with the Armory Board. D is a resolution approving Amendment Number 1 to the consulting services agreement with McClure Engineering for Dace and Leach Avenue 3-lane conversion project. E is a resolution approving a cooperative agreement between the Iowa Civil Rights Commission and the Sioux City Human Rights Commission for the purpose of cross-filing complaints. F is a resolution approving a contract to I&A Construction for the sidewalk ramp project. G is a resolution awarding a contract to Dixon Construction for the West Street Bridge Replacement Project. H is a resolution approving a contract to Guarantee Roofing and Sheet Metal of South Dakota for the Tyson Event Center Roof Replacement Project.
Mayor, I have a few questions on that. I don't know if they're for Mike or engineer. On the Tyson Event Center Roof Replacement Project.
Yep, Mike Collette, Assistant City Manager. I'll have Stan come up here as well. I think we
Okay,
have,
thanks, Stan.
we have Lance Roberts here. Okay. We have FEH representatives here too, if there's questions on the
Okay, great.
estimate.
Yeah, a couple of questions. The engineer's estimate's $1,255,000, and the low bid was $455,000. That's kind of a red flag for me. It's like, how can that be? And it wasn't only just the guarantee roofing bid. I mean, JC Roofing had $573,000. They were all well below that. And I don't know anything about roof construction, okay, so give me that. But I'm just wondering, how can that happen? That there can be I think the report said 63 or 64% lower than what the engineer's estimate is. And then I don't want to forget to ask you about the warranty period once the work is done.
Lance Roberts from FEH Design. When we initially created the estimate for that, we were about a year out from the project, and maybe you can speak a little bit more to it, but we were expecting, the trend was that prices were increasing, so we added cost multipliers, and it turns out that prices actually dipped down, did you say 40%?
Yeah. Right in and it was
Name,
multiple.
please.
It was market
Name,
construction.
please. Can you give your name first, please?
I'm sorry. Jamie Pash, Guarantee Roofing in Sheet Meadow, South Dakota.
Thank you.
So those two factors, construction market falling a little bit, we've had a lull, now it's kind of going back up. And just the overall material prices have came down. So I stand by our number. We've went through it again after the results, and we feel confident that there's no hidden agenda or.
And so your meeting, and this is just a question, I don't want to offend anybody, but I have to understand this. So you're meeting all of the plans and specs that were called for by the engineer,
Absolutely.
correct? And you can still come in at that price. And you said some of those prices have dropped as much as 40%?
Some of them, yeah.
From what they were a year ago? Okay, well, that's helpful, but I hope you understand why I'm looking at the $1.2 million, and I see $455,000. What's the warranty period on the roof replacement?
20 year.
30 years.
30 years.
30 years, I'm sorry, 30.
Is it 30 years?
Can I get a 40? Can I get a? Just kidding.
Has a 2-inch hail rider too.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Has a 2-inch hail rider policy too.
Oh, great.
Is that
It's
for
a
like
huge
the-
project, so I just want to make sure it's done right, and we won't have any problems going forward. So thank you for your answers. I appreciate that.
Okay, I is a resolution approving a contract to Mark Albanesius for the emergency Old Bacon Creek sanitary sewer repair project. 8 are actions relating to personnel. A is a resolution fixing the salary of the city manager. B is a resolution fixing the salary of the city attorney. 9 are actions authorizing payments. A is a resolution authorizing payments to Thompson Solutions Group for the Ho-Chunk to Central Bank Skywalk upgrade project. I need to abstain, conflict of interest. B is a resolution authorizing payment to Heber Construction for the demolition of 519 to 521 11th Street. C is a resolution authorizing payment to K&S Contracting for the hangar door replacement building 803 project at the airport. D1 is a resolution authorizing payment to Subservco for the Isabella Square Infrastructure Improvement Project. Need to abstain, conflict of interest. D2 is a resolution authorizing payment to Subservco for the Pierce Street Water Main Replacement Project. Need to abstain, conflict of interest. 10 are application beer and liquor license. 11 are boards, commission, and committee minutes. Anyone to be heard on any of those items?
O'Kane.
Aye.
Shaner.
Aye.
Scott. Waters.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Monica Gooddon, if you want to come up and tell us why you want to serve on the Inclusive Sioux City, please.
Good evening.
Aye.
Hi.
Tell us why you want to serve on the committee.
Yeah, so it seems like such a simple question, and I wish I had like a simple answer. But when it comes down to it, I want Sioux City to become an infrastructure that other counties are mirroring when it comes to our inclusivity. I think that we're doing a great job so far, but I think that there's a lot of work that can still be done, and I think I'm able to add to that.
Questions?
Any specifics that, when you say you can add to it, or anything come to mind specifically, want to aim towards?
Well, I'd like to see less, not necessarily less, but more focus on opportunities for growth, like within DEIs and employment. I love the fact that we have a lot of events that go on in Sioux City, but I'd love to see more people included in like higher positions and stuff like that.
For employment, you mean?
For employment, yeah.
Okay.
And even highlighting those, I think, too. I think that's a good
Absolutely,
point.
yeah.
Because I think sometimes organizations have diverse leadership, but sometimes you don't know it either. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and you want to make sure that there's opportunities for growth for a whole range of your employees. That's for sure.
Right, and then I myself, I'm a tribal member of the Winnebago tribe of Nebraska. So throughout my whole lifetime, Ho Chunk Inc. just celebrated their 30th anniversary. I'm 32. So throughout my whole life, I've watched what my community has done when those leadership roles were given to people who typically may not get that opportunity. So I'd love to see more of that in Sioux City, not just for my demographic, my community of people, but for my community of Sioux City as a whole.
Heidi, can you remind me of vacancies and demographics we're looking for or anything like that?
So she find the representative for the Native American community. We do have one vacancy for that position. There are 3 applicants for that position right now. One you just filled, and that was the NAACP position with Angel Wallace. The last position available is a representative from the LGBTQ community.
Yeah, that's
So
what.
2 total.
Gotcha. So 1 outstanding, and then this opening, we have 3 applicants for the 1 vacancy.
Correct.
Excellent. Well, appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you making the application as well.
Absolutely.
You have a good application submitted, so thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Appreciate it. Recommendations of planning and zoning. A is a hearing and ordinance amending chapter 25.02 zoning districts and land uses of the municipal code to provide for interim regulation pending the review of the enforcement and implementation of the automobile sales, rental, and service petitioner or ordinance. Petitioners, the city of Sioux City. P&Z recommends denial. Who's here for P&Z? Are you back?
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
I'll move it.
Second?
Public hearing's now open. Go ahead and tell us your findings.
Yeah, Michelle Bostonellis, I'm Vice Chair of Planning and Zoning Commission. So the Planning and Zoning Commission did make a recommendation to deny this item. And really, the reason was during the previous moratorium, staff went out and worked with the dealers and really got things cleaned up and got everyone back into compliance with the ordinances. And we understand that maybe there's some more research that needs to be done, comparing other cities and seeing what they're doing in terms of ratio to dealers to population. But we at the Planning and Zoning Commission felt like that could happen without a moratorium, that the research staff could be working on that research while the other dealers are able to apply if they wanted to open that business. So we think we're making really great progress and things are going well. We just didn't really see that was necessary to have another moratorium.
Yeah.
It's disheartening for me to drive down West 7th, an area that we spent a lot of money on trying to make it different. Have every corner have a used car lot. And even though you guys did a great job on what you did, I'm not sure we need any more used car. I think South Sioux's way ahead of us on that. I just don't know why we need more used car lots in this community.
We did discuss that as well and talked about South Sioux, and we even wondered if Sioux City was getting more pressure to have lots, because South
happened.
Sioux
I
had
think-
that too.
For
So that
sure.
was part of the discussion that we
I think
had.
we probably are, and I believe I was told that had been 2 more small lots added just since the count of 67. So now we're at 69, and if we keep adding while we're deciding, should we allow more additions, what's it going to be by the time we, get our research? And I think staff does a great job. They've gone out, they've done their due diligence, I think some of the small car lots were almost kind of scared straight, wondering what was going to happen. We better tighten these things up and get within compliance. But I agree with the mayor. I wonder, do we need more of these small car lots? And how close are they to historic districts? Are they allowed? How close are they to schools, to residential, to, there's a lot of different scenarios that I would like to look at. And I think a moratorium would be a good idea so we don't have 20 more by the time we get to the end of this further investigation that we want to do. I've asked my public policy and fiscal responsibility group to add that to our agenda, and we can do part of the work too, like comparing to other cities and things like that. So it's not that the group's not doing anything right. We just, I think, need to put the brakes on while we do this investigating.
I'm curious from the staff, you added 2. Where did you add them and how did they get enough land to do that?
So there was the one that went on West 7th that was new, that came through just as we were working through the code change last spring. And they were allowed, because they had already had approved site plan going into that, they were allowed to proceed. There was another one that disappeared, but it looked like it went out of business on the other end of the West 7th on the west side of Hamilton. So there has been kind of a cancel out on that one.
They did what now?
They went out of business, it looked like. There was no longer there. So it would have been on the other side of the pharmacy.
Next to Sam's.
Yeah.
Yeah. That one by McDonald's.
And then,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But they tore that building down. That was the old, you mean, just west of the drugstore?
Yeah,
Yes.
right next to the,
But that was Golden's and they tore the building down. They built another building?
not on Hamilton. I think you're talking about the one.
No, I'm talking on West 7th.
Okay.
Golden's were there for years,
That little building, they tore down that little?
right next to the drugstore, just to the west.
Yeah, I think that little building's gone. I think
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they were allowed to reopen?
no, that one has not come back in, Wade Schultz planning. The other one, we've had a couple that have come through that have asked for letters. There is one out on Riverside Boulevard in LaPlante. They did present a site plan, and because that place had been a car dealer in the last year, for its grandfathered rights on that. So they have presented us, but they have not given us a name for it yet. Additionally, there's one on 19th and Floyd. They did come through P&Z to not do the landscaping requirements. P&Z denied that. They have since presented a site plan to include all the landscaping which would be removing some of the concrete on that site and go forward with that. So there's been some transactions with some people like selling and also needing letters. So there has been a process going on.
Well, we've been without the moratorium for almost 2 months, 2 months now.
Yeah, it
Expired November 6th.
November.
So how long, if it hasn't been a car dealer for a year, they're out unless they can meet the new ordinance?
Correct.
And that one on Riverside Boulevard has been within the last year.
They still had, when we were going through last spring looking at those, there were still cars on there and they were still in.
Ask that, did they have a dealer's license?
They did.
Have cars. That doesn't mean you were legal.
I guess I would just share some of my thoughts. Wade, I would really thank you I know you put a lot of time and effort as well as planning and zoning, and Michelle, I know that entire team and this whole commission works really hard and thinks critically about this, and I appreciate it. And I know staff went out, did a lot of research, and thought creatively, took direction about what we would like to see, what changes we would like to have. And I think we came up with some creative solutions to problems. I do. And so I'm not faulting you for that at all. I really, really appreciate that effort and that work. And it was very much so noticed. But similar to the mayor, I can't help but drive around in this community and be really disheartened with the number of not only car dealerships or used dealerships, but those that seem to be lacking any operation or real business happening at them in general. You know, I think there are a lot of great dealerships in our community that are doing wonderful business that provide value added to our community. And I want to, you know, cheer them on and hope that they continue to do a great business in our community. But unfortunately, I think because of things and situations like South Sioux City, we are getting a proliferation of these used car lots that are going on nearly every corner that allows that space. And I understand we set forward, you know, dimensions and different standards that they would have to meet. But for me, you're only making it so they have more hoops and that they can still continue to grow and to continue to be here. And the fact that we have nearly 70 dealerships for a community of our size is just something I think that there's better use of that space, that land. I would like to see our businesses grow. I would like to see larger footprints of different industries or expansion of different things. And quite frankly, I don't think that the used car business industry is the direction that I would want to go with our limited real estate that we certainly have. And so that's not to say that sometime down the road, especially as we continue expanding as a community and growing, I look for that future growth and I'm excited for it. But I don't think now is the time that we need to be allowing for any additional. And so that's why I'm pushing or feel more supportive of the moratorium, is because regardless of the standards that you all worked hard to set forward, the more I thought about it, the more I'm just not comfortable at this time allowing more to happen. And I hope that makes sense.
Anyone to be heard?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.
So if you vote yes, you're voting for the moratorium. If you vote no, you're voting with the P&C. Okay.
What's the length of the proposed moratorium?
1 year.
What was our last one? Wasn't it only 6 months?
6th, and now this will take it to January 6th.
So I have another question, Wade. You got two in the process that haven't done what they should have done. I'm shocked that a guy that began the process but didn't get it done could then still get a dealer's license. I can't believe that the city would do that, but you did. So what happens with those two guys?
The ones that we already have kind of in process.
Well, I mean, they're kind of in the process. If you don't give them a name, you're really not in the process for me. If you didn't complete the full application, you're not in the process.
If council wishes to include that we cut.
Well, if a moratorium is a moratorium and you don't have something completed, I think the moratorium applies, but I'll quit practicing law and let the city attorney comment on that. Because I want to make sure on those two, we either do what we're supposed to or don't do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I have not looked at the applications, so it would depend on where they are in the process and if there's additional staff recommendation or approval that needs to take place. Have the individuals been told that this is?
They are aware, but I don't know. We weren't sure what was going to happen tonight either. So, I mean, so that's kind of where we've left it.
But at this point, both of them have outstanding documentation or changes or
They have presented staff with a site plan that meets the requirements. So.
Okay, Ready to vote? Okay, yes vote, you vote for the moratorium, and no vote, you vote with the planning and zoning.
Shaner.
Aye.
Scott.
I don't like going against the planning and zoning, but I'm kind of like the rest of them. I don't know how many we need on every corner around here right now, so I'm going to vote yes.
Waters.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
O'Kane.
Aye.
Let's not do second and third. That gives people an opportunity now to come talk, if that's okay.
I will say too, that there's, I mean, a notion to be had, or I don't know how the rest of you feel too, and it's a difficult line to walk, that thinking about, you know, we give them this year grace period where if one goes out, another can go in there. And while some of these larger, you know, dealerships or different places or companies, you know, if heaven forbid one of them would go out, I would pray that, you know, that someone would want to utilize that space. But it also makes me think if it's below a certain size or, you know, different things, that they wouldn't be able to reopen under that. Or am I understanding that correctly, Wade? I'm just thinking as if some of these ones that take up corners are unsightly or not meeting our standards, if they would go out of business, I don't want someone else just swooping in and opening up the exact same type of business.
So as part of the conditions that you approved last
Established.
spring, you can't go below half an acre. Between a half an acre and an acre would require a conditional use permit from the Board of Adjustment. Above that acre, you would need to present, like, meet all the landscaping and being able to drive through the lot
Sure.
and so forth. Those standards would need to be met and be able to be shown on a site plan going forward.
Okay. So if one of these smaller ones, wherever in our community, were to go out of business and the size, frankly, didn't meet at all, there's no way no one else could go in there and just open up another used car dealership.
True. So they would, if there is one that's, I think, 3,000 or 4,000 square feet here in town that would not be allowed to reopen.
Okay. That's all I wanted to know. I appreciate it.
15 is a hearing and resolution approving plans and specs for the Hubbard Park Lighting Upgrade Project. I'll move that.
Second.
Public hearing's now open. Anyone to be heard? Hearing is closed.
Scott.
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
O'Kane.
Aye.
Shaner.
Aye.
14 is a hearing and resolution approving plans and specs for the South Glass Street Water Main and Pavement Replacement Project. I'll move that.
Second.
Public hearing's now open. Anyone to be heard? Hearing is closed.
Scott.
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
O'Kane.
Aye.
Shaner.
Aye.
15 is a hearing and resolution accepting the proposal of TKR Trucking for the lease of land in the Donner Park Urban Renewal Area, and property includes various parcels of farmland at the airport. I'll move that.
Second.
The legal wants to offer an amendment for insurance.
Yeah, so we have Mike Collette, Assistant City Manager. So council can either approve this subject to legal's approval of the insurance certificate after the fact, or defer for a week. We do not have a complete insurance certificate. We're lacking one item still.
We're still waiting for the umbrella coverage.
We've done that before, haven't we?
Yeah.
Make it subject to the, and if you don't get the certificate, it doesn't.
Right.
I'll move subject to legal accepting the insurance.
Second.
Waters.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
O'Kane.
Aye.
Shaner.
Aye.
Scott.
Public hearing's now open. Anyone to be heard? Seeing none, the hearing is closed.
Moore.
Aye.
O'Kane.
Aye.
Shaner.
Aye.
Scott. Waters.
Aye.
16 is an ordinance amending Chapter 3.03 definitions, Chapter 13.07 sewer use, and Chapter 13.14 fat, oil, and grease regulations, municipal code to provide for revisions to fat, oil, and grease regulations. I'll move first reading.
I'll second.
Staff wants to request some amendments. Who's doing that?
Tom?
I can take a stab at it. That's
I don't know. I'm just reading what you wrote on my homework.
Then I have some questions for Tom. Was there an amendment to be made?
I think we made the amendment before the meeting.
It's presented on the agenda as it was originally sent, so we have to amend on the floor to conform with what you're requesting. There were 2 sections. Okay. The first requested amendment is under 13.14.030, sub.
Let me ask you if we're doing third readings, rather than try to go through this tonight.
Bring it through in
Can we do
second.
first reading and you get them all ready for us for second reading?
Sure, and we have the draft ready. We just wanted to guess what the council may, and certainly present it next
Well, I'm
week.
assuming you've spent time with industry, I'm assuming you've spent time with your staff, assuming that obviously there's some buy-in on this, or we would have heard from people. So,
Good change.
yeah, I'd move that we just vote on first reading, you get it to us, and we'll amend on the second.
Sure, and it's just 2 minor code references that we were going to amend anyway. It doesn't change the substance as presented.
Okay, well, that at least gives people that have an interest in it a little time to comment too.
Well, and what I'd like, Tom, for myself is, you have 6 bullet points on this. And I was wondering if you could just run through those. And I was wondering if there's any one that's more difficult for the businesses than others, or which one is going to be the most challenging, if any. Maybe there aren't any, but I'd like to just, if you could run through that for me, please.
Yeah. Tom Piggle, Utilities Director. Just to address the mayor's concerns, we've been working hand in hand with the chamber and all of the, not all, but most of the restaurant owners in town. We've had 2 meetings with the chamber over this, with a lot of folks involved, and we took a lot of their opinions and considered a lot of that in here. The bullet points, the major changes that we're proposing is the grandfathered status. So if you purchase a building and you want to convert it into a restaurant, and or maybe it already was a restaurant, and it has a grease interceptor in it, but it's, let's say you already own the restaurant and you want to expand it, or you want to change, you want to put a dishwasher in. With the old code, if you would have installed a dishwasher, you would have lost your grandfathered status, so you would have had to put a bigger grease interceptor in. And sometimes they cost $20, $30, all the way up to $100,000. So that was a big change we made. Fines and warnings, instead of immediately fining the restaurants, we're going to start educating them and warn them before we start fining them, just to help them better understand why this ordinance exists.
I like that one.
Pumping frequency, we used to require them to pump out their grease interceptors every 90 days, regardless of how much fog was in there or grease was in the interceptor. But now we're just going to go to 25% rule. If it's filled up with grease, more than 25%, you need to pump it. If it's not, then it's okay.
And it's up to those businesses or entities to be able to test that, correct? And see where they're at as far as their levels.
Correct. And Vicki, who's the wastewater treatment plant manager, will send her staff out if they request.
Be able to assist or show. Yeah.
Yep.
How otherwise would you enforce that? How would that be enforced?
We have a device that we can stick down into the grease interceptor to see how full it is.
You're going to do that from
They do a lot of that type of stuff.
time to time? Or do you with the inspections?
Yeah, we do that with every inspection. Yep. And
Your department does that?
yep, there's over 500 restaurants we inspect. We have to inspect each restaurant at least once every 3 years.
Okay, thank you.
The other change we made is the 6-month fog discharge average. It used to be 200, or it used to be 100 milligrams per liter of fog would be allowed to be discharged to the plant from your facility. We increased that to 200. We did that because the industries are 200, so we just wanted to make it even across the board.
I like that one. That's very fair.
Yep. Variance options. This is more targeted to our downtown restaurants, but it could be for anybody. If your restaurant is in a location where you're unable to feasibly get a grease interceptor installed because maybe you don't have a parking lot, or maybe you're like on a top floor, or
That's a big hole dug, and
Yep.
it has to be installed, right?
Yep, so you can request a variance if it's financially or impossible to install, and then I can review that with staff and we can figure out another option for those facilities.
What other options would you think of?
Maybe put a smaller portable unit in and they just have to pump it out more, but there's a lot of different ways we can tackle that.
Buffalo Alice, for an example.
Yep.
There was no place for them they couldn't put in the alley, they couldn't, do the big, so they were able to put something in their basement, right?
Yep, yep. And the last one is the grease control mechanism sizing. This is the one that had most concern from the restaurants, especially new coming restaurants. So we changed our sizing requirements. Instead of just going off of how many tables the restaurant has, we also are considering how many meals they serve and the square footage of the seating area. We take all those inputs, which ERA has worked with an intern to put this on our city website, and as soon as this gets approved, we'll start this on the website where you can input those values yourself. And it'll spit out an average and a minimum. And if the minimum seems appropriate, we'll allow them to utilize the minimum. If it doesn't seem appropriate, because maybe they don't know how many meals they serve because they're brand new, then we'll just use the average. So those are the main changes we made to the ordinance.
And that last one's just kind of meant to give them flexibility, right? I mean, because I know we spoke in the public meetings as far as, well, maybe you're a place that does mostly to go or, doesn't have a lot of tables or seating, but you still use a lot of grease on your fryers or on your grill or something like that. Like you're still producing quite a bit. So we're just trying to find a way to calculate this that's flexible, but also is getting to cover both of our bases to where, we're protecting the city infrastructure, but also giving them a flexible option to make it not cost prohibitive.
Exactly. We also, the chamber and its members wanted us to incorporate more variables to account for different types of restaurants. So maybe McDonald's isn't exactly the same as a pizza restaurant. So all those different restaurants are considered as a different variable for grease production, and that goes into that equation. So it's not just one generalized statement.
Thanks, Tom, for your report. I really appreciate that information.
Yep. I want to thank the chamber, all their folks that came out, the mayor and the council for helping us with this, and then our staff, Vicki and Mara, worked really hard to get this done. So.
And yourself, yeah.
Yep.
Anyone to be heard?
Thank you, Tom. Mr. Bowe.
Good evening. Bo Bronger, NAI United, speaking as a landlord at 1400 Hamilton Boulevard. I do want to commend Mr. Pingle and his team for coming up with some very rational and reasonable solutions that were all brought to him at the chamber meetings. I would like to bring up a couple of things that I think I'm asking to be reconsidered or possibly amended to these changes. And that is with the respect of a strip mall owner and a restaurant user in our city. And so if we have a restaurant that's been established in a strip center for 15 plus years, it's well before the April 1st, 2015 deadline. All those strip centers typically tie into one sewer outlet in the back of the building. So then it comes down to who's going to pay for this cost. And so if you go to a restaurant user that is renting there and saying, hey, you are mainly responsible for all of this additional discharge or a possible SSO, you're now going to have to spend $65,000 was the last quote I got for an external grease interceptor. Well, he'll probably close his doors. Then you go back to Mr. Landlord and say, Mr. Landlord, although you built your building to spec and things have been fine all up until the last few years when this fog program was implemented, you should pay for it. Well, then he's going to be giving up at least 5 years' worth of income on any potential tenant that may come in. That's 5 years of expenses that he did not plan to give up or plan to make. So I don't know if there's any chance for us to make any sort of an amendment that places established with a business license prior to a certain date can continue their grandfather status or not. But going back to these small businesses is going to put them out of business and telling them that they have to pay for these new interceptors.
I think your point's well taken. I'd like to know what Tom's initial reaction would be to that request.
Well, Bo, can I ask questions about your
Sure.
hypothetical
Fire away.
situation, right?
Yeah.
So do you have a grease interceptor on like a strip center now then, or no? There's not one now?
There are
is,
grease
right?
interceptors within the actual facility that are now undersized by the code. So since they have been.
Because they all feed into one.
There are internal grease interceptors within the restaurant space right now. And the new code is saying that they are severely undersized. So in order to make it come back into compliance here, we're going to have to probably put an external interceptor in outside. Does that answer your question?
Are they failing their inspection, though, every time?
They have been keeping up their records and cleaning them semi-daily and passing the inspections now. Have you been to, I'm talking about Golden Bowl, for example.
Right. Mhm.
So, Tom, I don't know if
Yeah,
wanna
sure,
jump in
Tom,
on
if
that
you
one.
wanna
So,
jump
I mean, this
in,
is just
sorry.
one example of about 3 other ones that I have that we're going through.
The only thing I want to add to this is we don't make, the restaurants make any changes unless they cause an SSO. So if they cause a.
Unless it's not in compliance.
Then we make them upsize.
But thus far, they've been grandfathered into what it used to be since 2015's change. And now they're failing due to whatever reason. When you guys come to inspect, take the measurement, they out of compliance.
I guess my point is that they've been in place and doing business there for, let's just say, 20 years now. And should an SSO occur where the sanitary sewer system overflows and it has to be then unplugged and they have to dedicate resources from the city to clean it up and everything else, then they could be faced with putting in this external grease interceptor and closing up their business. Although prior to all of that, they followed the code and followed the process and everything else. I'm just looking for a little bit of reprieve for the small business owners there.
But Bo, the problem is the rules change. We didn't have the same FOG requirements from the feds that we have now. And so it's not fair for my sewer bill at home to pay to come out and clean up what clogs your mainline sewer. That's not fair to me. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but the reason we went doing what we're doing is it's not fair to the rest of the people in the community to go around and clean up sewer lines in restaurants that some don't clean up their traps.
Right.
Or they're undersized.
Some are severely undersized and couldn't meet the existing spec. I mean, I don't know where the happy medium is, but if they're saying that as long as you're in compliance, you don't have to do anything. Well, if you're not in compliance, then I'm sorry, but we're going to have to do something. We can't, grease is hard on sewer lines.
Right, and Mr. Mayor, I totally agree with you, and I share your same standpoint there, but I was just thinking perhaps a happy medium would be establishing some sort of a deadline moving forward, that if that business ever moves out or whatever, and another business goes in, well, then it's going to have to be properly sized back up. Otherwise, we're going to be forcing a few people out, and we'll be losing some jobs in some restaurants. That's all I'm saying. I don't know if
But
I
it's
get
the
it.
current business that's failing. So we would be kind of agreeing to let them continue to not meet the requirement.
Well, and continue to put the rest of the citizens at a risk of having to pay for a clog because it's grandfathered in.
So are they out of compliance on a regular basis?
Aramontang Environmental Services, if they're if the new business goes in there, then they wouldn't have a grandfather status anyways, because it'd be a new industry. So they would have to come up to code. If they can't meet that code, or if, like you said, it's a fiscal hardship of some sort, then they can come and talk to Tom, or they can call us and ask for what we were calling a variance, so that we can try to still get them in there. It may not be that 2,000 gallon interceptor or whatever it may be, or we would try to work with them on something.
Okay, so just so I guess we're all clear then, if they're able to prove that they don't have the initial startup capital to get in and open their doors and put in the requirements that are now in the FOG program, those requirements could be waived?
Not waived, they can request a variance, and we'll try to work with them. They would have to have something installed.
Okay.
Now, whether it's an in-ground interceptor or something under the sink to help mediate,
Reduce that.
we would try to work with them.
That's proposed in your variance option where it says it's impractical or financially infeasible.
Correct. But
So
we would
pick
still
up
try to
under
put
that.
some sort of stop in that.
That
line,
would
to try to collect as much as we can. It might not be up to the amount we want it to be, but we'll try to work with them.
The restaurant owner would contact you or Tom
They would contact FOG.
to discuss that variance.
Thank you. My last question is any fines imposed in the past that have not been paid, are those still enforceable?
Yes, if it was from an SSO that happened, yes. The only fines that we were putting on hold at this time was not really a fine, but, or maybe if you didn't install right away. We had put anything on hold that we said you need to upside to this size until we
Finalized everything, yeah.
Yeah, and got those different sizing requirements in. So if
Well-
it was a fine connected to an SSO,
Okay, because we're sitting on a fine for not having the properly sized tank, and Mr. Pingle said those will all be put on hold. Code
could
was then
relook at that.
rewritten, so I'd like to have that looked at. So, okay.
Thank you. I thought you had a third one.
That's all right. Thank you, Mr. Moore.
All right, yeah.
Thanks, Bo.
Thanks, Bo.
I do listen, Bo.
Jeff Carlson, 6701 Prairie View Court, here on behalf of RE/MAX Experience and RE/MAX City Center. Would reiterate with Bo's comments, appreciate the due diligence and the opportunity to work with the team. I didn't get to go to the second meeting, but I was the first one, so it was definitely well attended. Won't take a ton of time. Mike, I appreciate the opportunity for a variance. I know that it's already been said, but I just want a little bit of clarification since we're all here. Basically, you're saying the variance, because obviously I could potentially fall into this because we would not be able to put one in the ground at the city center in our large space that's still open. Would be you'd basically take into consideration, where it could be put, what style of business. So, like you said, a pizza place is different than potentially somebody or a pizza place different than a burger place, different than those types of things. Is it subjective? Is there like a matrix that will come with that? And then who also, would it be your team that makes that decision? Is it something where you guys make a recommendation and the council can have consideration in regards to the style of
No,
business?
we're not going to have a consideration.
You won't have consideration, I'll go here. Okay, that's what I'm curious.
Unless you don't
how-
like the answer, then you can always come to the council.
Then you can
Got
appeal it.
Exactly. So just curious how that would flow.
So that variance would mostly be, we would look at all aspects of it. Most of it's going to be your location. If it's something landlocked, like she said, like BA's really has no place to put one except for in the basement. Things of that nature. If it is like a money issue, hardship of that nature, we would look at what we could do to help you. So, I think there's a lot of different factors that play into that, and we would look at all of them.
Okay.
They would basically just come to us, and just like a sidewalk waiver or anything else in the ordinances, and just say, these are the issues we have or we're having with this location, and then we can sit down and definitely talk about them. The new sizing proposal, if you go in and look at it, and we'll get that active as soon as we can, and there's also a calculator to help the different businesses look at it, but we do take into account sizing of the restaurant, the square footage of your actual dining, not with your kitchen, meals served, square footage, what was the other one? That's it? seating, and then we do an average of that. If there's like a minimum, if you don't know like the meal service, if it's something new coming in, we can take that average and then we can look at that and adjust. But it literally, the calculator spits out 3 answers for each grease trap or each situation, and then it averages it so you can see the different variances. But we would definitely look at that and try to get the best fit for you.
Great, but awesome. What I'm hearing is we'll get to that number, you'll look at that, and we'll say, hey, okay, we maybe can't hit X.
Yep.
But here are 2 or 3 different solutions that we can think that we could feasibly figure that out, and we'll
Yes.
work together to do that. That makes
Yep.
sense.
Yep.
Okay.
But
Shannon,
just
go
so
ahead.
I'm clear, where the variance will help the potential new business to meet the fog requirement, it won't waive the fog
Correct.
requirement, right?
Correct.
It might
It's not
be
a
the
waiver,
can't be.
it's variance.
Correct. Okay, I just want to make sure that we're clear on that because we're defeating the purpose.
Right, no,
Right.
it's a variance.
And the other thing,
You go ahead.
I was going to say, I was along the same lines of Julie, is because I understand and I've worked with, I know Bo has had some struggles with the strip centers, and Jeff, we sit on committees together, so I've heard some of your struggles. And so I'm glad that we're reaching a consensus here. But I do want to say too, with those variances, while we all have a vested interest in, look, I love the restaurants you guys are talking about, so I want them to stay open and thrive. But we also have a responsibility to everyone and can't promise that those variances will make everyone whole or that they will always be available. And so I trust, and we've directed staff to be as flexible as we can. But at the end of the day, we need to be in compliance because we need everyone to be safe and our system to be safe, because we're seeing what the overall cost is because of how detrimental it's been in the past, if that makes sense. So I hope you understand that we're trying.
And I do want to say, our businesses have worked with us really great in the past since this ordinance went into effect. And that's why we're at a point where we can offer these things. They've been cleaning, most of our businesses are being compliant. So it gives us that option to have a little bit of leniency for these situations. I think we're doing a great job. We're now on the proactive side of it instead of the.
Yes, I think you guys are
Absolutely.
doing a great job educating the business owners that this thing is not just some magic box. It's also got to be maintained, so.
Well, obviously, they've done a good job because that's what you had, unfortunately, was a one-size-fits-all, and it doesn't work. And
It doesn't work.
And they're, to only have 2 people here and not objecting.
Right.
Right.
And the
But
volume.
Appreciate your doing what you did, so.
Volume that business may have been doing if they're here 20 years or 10 years or whatever, it's probably changed.
Right.
We're not doing the same amount of business.
And we
that
know a lot
were
more
do-
about it
Right,
now than we did in 2015, so.
right.
I think the program's good. It's just, it's like anything else. It's always revolving, so we just got to revolve with it.
2 things you don't dictate, you discuss, and that makes a huge difference in this community. Jeff, great interview over
Okay.
the weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've got ice cream downtown.
New
How about
business and
that?
ice cream, yes.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
No, that
We,
was a really nice interview.
Sounds good, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it looked great. I haven't been down there yet, but
Well, it's almost like an ice cream museum, I'll say that. They did a fantastic job. It's experience-based, called the Scoops Udder Place.
yeah.
There's going to be a ton of great stuff in there, a lot of great games, but also a lot of nod to Sioux City history in there. And open Thursday at 3 o'clock, grand
was gonna
opening.
say,
And
CF4, man.
we need to support them through these couple winter months, and I think they'll do a good job. So I appreciate that.
You did a great job too, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Anyone else to be heard? We'll just do the first reading tonight. You'll bring it back. Citizen concerns. Are there any citizens who want to be? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
O'Kane.
Aye.
Shaner.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Great job, staff.
Citizens, anyone to be heard? Seeing none, Mr. O'Kane.
Well, I am fortunate enough to drive by the 3 Habitat for Humanity homes that are going in on Myrtle, and we haven't met since the passing of President Jimmy Carter. So I just wanted to give a nod to him. I grew up hearing stories about when my dad took my mom to meet President Carter for the first time, and it was a very different experience for the both of them. And he always like to show off his Christmas card from Jimmy Carter every year. And this year, my wife got a Christmas card from Jimmy Carter, so she got to show that off and shove that in his nose. So whether you agree with his politics or not, he's left a mark on Sioux City. We've had several Habitat for Humanity houses go in Sioux City, and he's really helped a lot of families get homes that otherwise may not have been able to. So he's definitely left his mark here, and that's all I'd like to share this week.
Did the Miracle on the Border in Tijuana, and we built 100 homes, and I got to work.
That's what I was just going to bring up.
Got to work with Jimmy Carter and his wife on that project. I had breakfast with him a couple times, and I had him sign a book, and I said, I know you don't know where Iowa is anymore, but I'm from Iowa. And he said, I'll never forget Iowa. I wouldn't be president. I wouldn't have been president if it wasn't for Iowa. A gentleman and his wife worked unbelievably hard on those projects. And then when I came back from that, Reverend Churchman at First United Methodist Church had me come up and speak, and he kind of got Habitat for Humanity going in Sioux City, Iowa years ago. So near and dear to my heart.
Cool.
Julie.
Well, I think that the Journal and some of our media should do a story on you on that with his recent passing, because I remember you sharing that with me when we were touring the homes what's that group that comes through in the summertime?
Let's Build.
Yeah, yeah. And you were telling me that, and when...
Did 20 of them.
Yep. Yeah, and when he passed away, I thought about the stories that you told me, how you worked with him and his wife, and I thought, oh, they should be doing a story with the mayor. That's deep, and it really made differences in Sioux City, for sure. So, but other than that, I have nothing.
Alex.
Well, I just wanted to wish everyone a happy new year, and it's great to be back and have a sense of normalcy. I was with the holidays traveling a little bit, and but it's always nice to be back and back to have some familiarity and see all of you and be able to serve the city and get back in the mix. I also am excited. They've had some recent announcements and different things, but we have a lot of exciting things coming up, at whether it's the Tyson Event Center, the Orpheum, or anything like that. I know I, for one, am pretty excited about Nate Borghese, and some of the other shows are going to be great, so looking forward to those. But otherwise, the only thing I would remind folks, because I see them oftentimes as I'm out driving around, and I know Ann on social media does a great job, but we need to make sure to scoop our sidewalks, scoop them, salt them, whatever you need to do. I know that snow is pretty stuck down now, but it is the adjacent homeowner's responsibility to clear off those sidewalks. Look, no one likes fines. No one wants to get fined. I understand that it can be burdensome to get out there and clear off your sidewalk. That's why I need to have people help me do it. And so if I have to have people that are out there cleaning my sidewalk, even though ironically mine doesn't have a curb cut, so I can't get on it, I make sure that it's cleared off every single time, so that the kids that live in my neighborhood can use it. So I would ask that citizens do the same, and that everyone be safe out there with this weather, because you never know when that ice is going to hit, and it's important to be safe. So great to see all of you in 2025. I'm looking forward to it. That's all I have.
Dan.
Mayor, one thing, and Mr. Padmore might be able to help me with this, but just take a look at, I just wondered what the scorecard is on home serve. And when I get my home serve bill, I pay it either that day or the next day. And a month later, I'll get a second notice. And 2 months later, I get a third notice. And if I wasn't remembering I had paid it, I might pay the second notice. I might pay the third notice. I just wonder why their system doesn't work in a way that if you pay it over 60 days ago, I mean, it should be, I don't think the city does that with the water billing, I don't believe. I think once you pay it, you don't get a second notice and a third notice. I'm just wondering if anybody else had problems with that, or if they've overpaid, and what do they do if they do overpay? If I pay the second notice and pay the third notice, will they refund that, or did I just buy myself 3 years?
Let me see what I can find.
Will you please? Okay. That's all I have, Mayor.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
Shaner?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Waters?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
O'Kane?
Aye.
Great to see you guys.
See you. Happy New Year.